Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
And Wednesday night, you know what that means. I heard myself way too loud. Is what that
I heard like
means.
3 of you.
I know, that was alarming. But for better or worse, it's the Mark Order podcast. So
Just one Kate.
Just one of me. But 3 of us in total. We've got Ryan, we've got Joe, we've got blood and guts to talk about. Very excited to get into what was a largely nonsensical and stupid, but so much fun little match that we got. There's so many things in that match that don't make sense, and I just don't damn care. But had a blast with it. Not so much a lot of the rest of this episode in that first hour, but we're gonna get into all of that and more. Before we do, Ryan, what is first off? There's a few things to address. We've got Ryan and we've got Joe. What happened on the Love Wrestling gaming situation? Is there anything you would like to say to Miles Blackwell, the violent gentleman?
Yeah, screw you, dude.
Wow.
I will one up him.
It seems as though you could actually. Why don't you explain for the people what happened first, while I fix my leg?
Well, first of all, I have the greatest thing I've ever done happen on that stream, but Love Wrestling now every Tuesday, used to be every Thursday, but now every Tuesday, not every Tuesday, sorry. The last Tuesday of every month is going to host a show called Quizplex. And on this show, they bring on wrestlers and they do a bunch of quiz things. But as viewers, you can donate money to charity, which is why I like it, because I like giving money to charity. So it's a good excuse to give to charity. But that gives points to whoever you want, which I'm pretty sure if you go back in time when I started watching is when it got really bad, because then I just started being an agent of chaos.
Typical.
And I'm trying to get Miles Blackwell to lose, but he keeps winning, and it's really annoying. I keep going against him. However, Matt Viviani was on, and I also don't want him winning. So I promised him my points, and then
everyone. You're a reasonable man, from what I know.
I promised him points and then took it away.
Wow.
Well, see, I don't, but those Viviani and Blackwell have gone against my chosen champion of Little Mean Kathleen.
Well, of course, because she's the best.
So, and honestly, Vinny Pacifico was supposed to be on last night, so he was going to get all my points, but then he wasn't on, so it all fell apart.
Bob Vance was not supposed to be on at any point?
No, that would be an interesting one.
Miles Blackwell.
He's won twice, and he's cut a promo on me. I'm not thrilled right now. I'm not thrilled. Uh-oh, do we lose Kate?
Maybe.
You're not thrilled. This is the revenge she gets.
Was it deserved?
Yeah, because I tried to even it out. Like I actually played my prank on Spencer, where I said, I want you to take my points, which were a lot, and spread them out so we would get as close to tied as possible. So he had to do some math. And he still won. So I got to give him credit, but he cut a promo on me, and I don't like that.
Well, prepare a promo for him then.
Well, I was going to pop on, to be quite honest. I'll tell a little behind the scenes. Zach, who runs the game show, has sent me a link to go on, but I got it fixed for this show. But my continuing camera problems continued.
Kind of like
so I was like
internet problems.
Yeah. I know why she doesn't use her Ethernet. Like I get it, because it's like across the room and it would just be really bad looking for her apartment, from what I gather. But how does she just not use her Ethernet?
I don't know. I usually try to do that for streaming and things like that.
See, I use Wi-Fi because there's just literally no physical way I can do it. I guess I could buy
Ethernet cable back from when I used to have the old PS3, and I would take it from my outlet from where the moon was to like 2 rooms down the hall and like still plug it into my PS3.
It's a matter of not just like the total distance, it's
Mhm.
the like how I'd have to weave in and around things that makes it difficult. Like I don't know if they make one long enough for it, just
Yeah.
because of the corners and stuff.
While Kate's gone, working through her internet issues as always, with the longest story feud ever. How was your weekend, Ryan? How you been?
How was my weekend? I dog sat again, so that's always lovely to dog sat 2
Yep.
dogs who. Am I losing you too? Okay. Phew.
No.
I am not skilled enough to vamp by myself, so thank God you came back. I don't have that. This would have been a very bad, a very bad thing. No, it was good. It was like I said, a dog sat for my and then 2 chocolate labs, and they're a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But that was about it. How was yours?
It was good. Had a wedding reception for a friend. Survived that. Went and saw Twisters, and
How was it?
it was fine for a summer movie. I felt like it's a little bit. People are really hyping it up, I think, a lot. So I'm still an OG fan. It was fine for what it was. I'm gonna go see Deadpool and Wolverine tomorrow night. So
Now that I'm
that will
excited for.
that'll probably trump it. But yeah, did that, and yeah, Monday, and then I dealt with like credit card fraud issues. So yeah, that's been my weekend.
No, okay, yeah.
So,
Wait, you had credit card fraud?
someone asked us to one of my accounts, and I had a payment method saved on one of my accounts. So
Yeah,
someone
that happens.
in Jersey City is rocking a whole full wardrobe of Old Navy clothes.
So don't wear my new Old Navy outfit.
Well, all the stuff they ordered was like size medium, like a 30 waist. And I think I know you well
Are
enough,
you saying
Ryan.
I'm not?
Well, you are very petite. I am aware of this.
What is the office? You are evil and petite. And so very, very sweet or something like that. I can't remember the exact one. Yeah, so okay. I mean, no one will know that it was me. That's good.
And you don't live in Jersey City. I know that. So
But that's why I shopped there.
Okay.
Now let's see if this works. Nope.
Well, fun. The black screen of death.
Oh, Kate. Oh, Kate. Katie. What is going on? I can't do. She needs to come on. I was not taking good notes tonight.
Which notes? Well, while we wait for Kate to jump back in, are there anything that you recall from news and notes that we can kind of go over really quick?
Well, I'll tell you what we'll talk about because it is very wrestling related. So there's all the talk about Warner and AEW. I think Meltzer and a couple others reported that there was a deal, but then Fightful Select came out and said no. That's while it does seem both sides want to do business and it could be likely, there's not a deal. But at the same time, you have that Warner made a play for the NBA rights. They said they matched Amazon's offer, but then the NBA came out today saying that they didn't match and they're going with Amazon. They have to be. Wait. No, they have. Oh, she's moving this time. Oh my God.
Are we back? Are we so back? I'm so sorry.
You're back. We've been here.
I don't know if it's my internet or StreamYard because StreamYard crashed. I had a stream earlier with SP3 and it crashed then and it was a StreamYard issue. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm here now. Hopefully my stream actually holds up. My internet's been doing so good. I keep cheering for it, but
Well,
Well,
before I guess we were talking about other wrestling things, but I was going to ask you how your weekend was, Kate. So I asked Ryan already, and I don't want to skip you because no one on this program would skip one.
No, that's something that would certainly never happen, especially with me around. So, my weekend was good, man. My weekend was decent. I had a good one. What did I do? I can't even remember. It feels so far away now. I had excitement. That was just this weekend. I was at the roller dome. That's right, or the skate estate. I was at the roller rink. My goodness, I felt like that was like 6 years ago at this point, but it was so much fun. Literally, where I smooched my 7th grade boyfriend, maybe 6th grade boyfriend.
Was it
You
a state issue, or did you like go sneak around somewhere and like lock lips, or what was the
It was
situation
like I can't remember if it was someone's birthday or if it was a school event, but it's like a roller rink, and then they have like water slides outside and an arcade and laser tag. It's like a whole thing. So we were probably just doing like the classic, like getting pizza and slushies or whatever bullshit. And yeah, me and Bill kind of got smooching. There you go.
Good on Bill. Good on Bill.
So that was super fun. And then I'll be back up there, not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after for Speedy Festival, which is a 3-day event, which means I'm making triple pay, which is great for me. But I'm just excited because Dijak is going to be here. So everybody can feast their eyes and get ratioed because Dijak is coming into town. So I'm very excited about it. But yeah, that was a really fun experience, man. That was a completely different vibe or energy than anywhere else that I ever called commentary or did anything. It's crazy how much didn't change about it. That's what was so weird. It was like, oh, I've walked back in time. Like, it's not like they updated the games to be like anything new. It's all the same stuff. They've repainted some stuff, but like laser tag is still in the same spot it was. Like it felt like walking back in a moment in time. So it was very
did
cool.
anyone in the show have roller skates on as part of something?
No, but I will. I'll give you guys a peek behind the curtain at Excite Wrestling, because if anyone's gonna do a weird spot at the Family Fun Park, it's gonna be Dan Barry, right? So they were talking about doing, when we thought it was going to be set up outside, they wanted to do like a water slide bump, like proper, like they wanted to go down. I forget what it was, but they wanted to end in a wrist lock, but they wanted to go down the slide together. And then they were trying to figure out a skate situation, but what they ended up doing was just running around the rink in their entirety. CPA wound up he went to go punch it, but he wound up his punch around the entire arena. Or around the entire rink in what was dubbed by Dan Barry as a falls count most places match. So that was very, very fun. But yeah, that was cool. I'm hoping we're gonna run there again, I've heard, in September. So I'm looking forward to that.
Is it running there?
I definitely
or is it
want to go
skating
skate
there?
It's rolling there.
You were rolling there.
It's rocking there, it's rolling there. It's gonna be a blast, but this I think was called Keep on Rolling, so I'm sure we'll have some cheesy pun for the Excite title of the
Biscuit,
so.
like keep rolling.
We played that. We played rolling. And we also, it was crazy.
Right here, LIMP. Biscuit is right here.
They had the audio from when I was a kid, the Skate Estate theme. They had Skate Estate. So
That's a lot like Baby Shark.
It is a lot. It's not Skate Estate theme walked so Baby Shark could run is how I've always felt about that. So, but it was very fun. It was very typical local commercial kind of thing. It was a banger. It was a banger. But it was fun. It was a blast.
Sounds like a magical place.
It really is. It's no Casa Bonita, but it's pretty good.
Casa Bonita.
Nothing is Casa Bonita, so
I need to try and make my reservations for that in September.
Hell yeah. Well, what do you guys want to do? You want to talk about some news and notes throughout the week before we dive into anything else? Before we tell you about our t-shirts and our commercial break and all that jazz? We could talk about some news and notes about we can kick off with the Warner Brothers news that isn't really news yet, except that somebody falsely reported that it was imminent. It is not imminent, but Tony Khan is meeting with high-level executives at the Olympics. And today the news broke that Warner Brothers is made an offer that was rejected by the NBA to move to, they're moving to Amazon. They're sticking with the Amazon offer. They matched the amounts, but they didn't match the rest of the terms that Amazon has all these other advantages to. So they didn't technically match the offer. Highly doubt there'll be any legal about it. I would imagine that that would cost more than it would take to pursue legally than it would be for landing that deal. But I guess we can start there. The beat that I have heard on it the entire time has been that they're probably not that affecting of each other. Like what AEW is going to get compared to what the NBA is going to get. You're talking about low millions versus high billions, or low millions versus low billions. So it doesn't seem like it has the same chokehold as people maybe want to pretend it does on the internet. But I think if anything, it's good news for AEW because maybe it frees up some budget. But I would imagine they're just going to try and go land something else in the sports rights arena if they can. Any thoughts from you, fellas? This kind of seemed like a big, I hate saying nothing burger because that's such a like shitty term now, but it kind of feels like that's what it is. Any thoughts, Joe? We'll start with you.
No, I feel like just all the rumblings kind of has a feeling of, maybe things are, handshake agrees in principle, but not on paper yet. Where, I think we're going to have a working relationship. There's just T's that have to be crossed and I's that have to be dotted and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think if they're already uploading things onto Max in Europe, they're probably pretty deep in the trenches, which is a really good sign. I can't imagine the NBA rights deal would play too much of a bit in this when they were talking, I think 1 billion over with the NBA. They're talking probably around 150 million a year for AEW. But Ryan, any thoughts on this? Anything that I know I have been following just like online or watching the Hump on Fightful to get the opinions of people smarter than me, and all the indications there are they're probably not all that related.
The only thing they would be related for that I sometimes think gets discarded, because I do think there's a little bit more relation, is we don't know what Amazon hasn't come out with, like the frequency of games, the nights it wants the games on, stuff like that. So the only way they could have been related is if Amazon is offering like a more improved schedule that could have impacted programming, and Warner could have been like, well, listen, we can't sign, like, or AEW could have been like, we're not signing until we know, are we getting our Wednesday spot? Are we moving to another night? Like, so that's, again, that's,
and
I
what's
don't think the
moving,
money's
right? Or what's going on of like, there were so many times Rampage and Collision have been preempted by the NBA that like, that could be affected from the schedule side. But to your point, only upside if they're getting booted to Amazon for sure.
Yeah, so that was my only. I get what everyone's saying, they're not related. Like the money's not related. Like the money being offered is so vastly different. But I do think there might have been a holdup in deals while you're trying to figure out, if Warner's trying to figure out, like, what do I have to offer the NBA in terms of nights, times, because that would impact the rest of your broadcasting, and NBA is first dibs on everything. So if NBA came in and said, we want every Wednesday at 8 o'clock during the season, then Warner has to go to AEW and say, you're no longer on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. Are you coming with this deal? Here's the money. And AEW has to decide, like, do we want to do that? So,
or are you back to TNT versus TBS again? Like all of those programming.
Yeah. But now the flip side of it is they are going to be hunting for programming. There's very few sports that can demand the time slot like the NBA can. I think they have hockey already. I don't think anyone else is up for major negotiating rights for a little bit. So, like, it's not like MLB is going to step in and be like, well, we'll take it. Or clearly not the NFL. So you already have hockey, you lost basketball, and MLB is the only one with regular games that might prove to be an issue. And actually, even to be say that WNBA just signed a new deal. So there's nothing in there that should take their time slot. So money-wise, it was never going to be a big deal. Now, as an NBA fan, I hate this.
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's going to be a weird adjustment for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I want to see, I would love to see a report of the extras that Amazon offered, because I got to believe TNT was just a better deal. It's like,
I guess we'll find out. Like, it sounds like if Warner was matching, then Amazon must have gotten in pretty hard for this. And I think the baseball stuff has been successful from the Amazon standpoint. I don't know if baseball fans love it, but I think it's done wonders for Amazon. So we'll see. We'll see what's to come. It definitely feels like this is the direction things are moving. Raw, obviously moving to Netflix. Like, it feels like we're watching cable die in front of our eyes, which I think there's advantages and disadvantages too, because I feel like eventually we're just going to be cutting out the middleman and ending back up with the same idea of everybody just subscribing basically per channel to whatever, or per network to whatever. So it's going to be a pain in the ass to have all those logins, but
that honestly to God is the pain in the ass. It's like, all right, if I want to watch this tonight, it's Amazon. If I watch this tonight, it's Apple TV. If I want to watch this tonight, it's Peacock. It's like I got to have 6 different logins. Like, the advantage of cable is you just had to flip the channel.
Yeah. But we're getting old. We're watching technology die in front of our eyes. So that's the way it goes. I am intrigued. There were some people, again, who are smarter than me in this particular arena that were saying, like, WWE might be the thing that kind of kills traditional cable, because that is year round. It's not seasonality. So the idea that they would make that big of a move, if that works out for Netflix, who desperately needed something of a live broadcast because they had nothing and everybody else had something, that might be it. That might be kind of the nail in the coffin, because if that works, it's the most consistent programming that there is. So
yeah.
Also, a couple special people in the chat. My cousin who's here and putting me over, which I always appreciate. But also, hi, Jesse Ozog.
Real quick, I wanted to make sure I was going to actually private message, like, is that an actual person or something? I have to
no, it isn't. It's not someone weird. I promise.
Okay, I'm glad it's a.
Your instincts are correct, though. There are a lot of weird people that do weird stuff, but no, that's my shoot cousin in the chat. He'll probably bring up Burn Notice at some point, but that's fine. What is with everybody loving Burn Notice?
I'm a fan.
That show is terrible.
The man was a spy and got burned.
No, I understand. It's not that I don't understand the premise. This is what happened, okay? One of the SmackDown post shows, interrupted Sean Ross Sapp comes on, and there was a whole conversation about Burn Notice started by my cousin, and then it ended up, I don't know, I think we were talking about Freddie Got Fingered at one point. I don't know what happens when Sean comes on
the Tom Green project.
Yeah. But I don't, like, my cousin turned the whole chat against me in favor of Burn Notice, and Sean was like, oh, that show was awesome. And I was like, that show sucks.
Hasn't Sean long attributed Burn Notice as the way he got back into watching TV? It's
possible. That makes too much sense, because Sean has terrible taste in television.
Yeah, I'm only gonna watch Bruce Campbell.
Fucking
project.
Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrong.
Oh
I mean,
God.
Burn Notice.
Terrible.
He had such attitude and sass. He was kind of suave, but kind of wasn't. It was perfect.
I used to describe him to my sister as because my sister loved it. She was so in on Burn Notice, and she's an actor who should know things about good acting. But she
should really know.
I liked this show better when my internet wasn't working. Okay, but I described my sister, that lead actor, to my sister as LA hot, and that, like, all of his features were attractive, but when you put them together, like, he didn't come across as an attractive dude.
No.
I was like, that feels like LA hot. Like, there's nothing actually wrong with the way you look, but I'm like, ooh, I got the ick.
Burn Notice was the first show on USA in a string of, like, shows that got fairly decent audiences on USA.
I know. It opened the gateway to white guys in suits. It was like white collar, the show suits.
Yeah, but then there's also Psych, which had no white guy. Well, it did the cops, but the main characters didn't wear suits. So don't hate. Oh no,
that is
Bert
true.
Gus did, but he wasn't a white guy, so it doesn't count. So
You just because you split up those two attributes across two people doesn't mean that you don't have is white guys and suits instead of white guys in suits.
Psych is a great show, so you can't shit on that.
Psych, I really liked. It got very formulaic, but
I don't mind formula. It's comfort.
Watch it every year. I rewatch it every year.
It's the difference between a good show and a great show.
And it was a great show. I agree. Thank you.
Bird Notice was not. Love Wrestling in the
Amazing.
chat too. Hi, Love Wrestling.
Oh, hey,
we
Love
were just
Wrestling.
talking about you guys at the beginning of the show. Talking
You know
about
who's
Miles
gonna-
Blackwell and how Ryan got stunted by him.
So Kate, actually, I'll put them on because I'm a big fan. Their next, well, they have a special episode coming up next week, I think. Mike from Indeed is doing it on Love Wrestling, and he's having Mansoor on there, and I forget the other two. But then next
Hell yeah.
month, Dijak is on it.
Hell yeah.
As
Go
is,
get those
as
guys.
is Miles Blackwell, and possibly if Mansoor wins, Mansoor.
Man, he'll win. He just has that. He has that energy about him. I love those dudes so much. That's awesome that you got Dijak on there. He'll be so fun for something like this. And yeah, Mansoor's been on there before, if I recall correctly. He's the best. I love Manny so much.
Well, they
Hell yeah.
first of all,
Okay,
hell yeah.
Monk ruled. Monk was
Monk was-
awesome.
Monk was
Tony
great, but yeah,
Shalhoub is
man-
like actually good.
Yeah.
He can act.
Both partners in the tag team were on the show. It was a tag team episode, and they just got so many donations, even though Dijak donated against them, but that was the whole thing.
Of course he did. I love that troop of fellas. I have nothing but nice things to say about any of them.
Like you do
But-
Monk.
Monk was a great show. Except
like
I didn't when they switched blonde assistants, that was like a whole thing.
But they didn't have I think she wanted to lead the show, didn't she?
She did. She thought she was gonna get like big money in her next step, and then she had no career after that. So that was really funny. But
Yeah.
there you go.
Jesse Wings is good, but it's they're all older than this USA run.
You know what though? My first like celebrity crush was on Joe Hackett. Something about Sandpiper Air, man. Just what a dreamboat. Not even the bad boy of the show, not even Brian, the goody two shoes. I wanted to be what a dreamboat. Helen ruled. Anyway, we should talk about wrestling at some point.
We
You want to talk
over your-
some contract confusion?
whose contract is confused.
Well, we got some updates on some House of Black contracts. Not a ton of clarity. There's a big assumption, which is something I've also heard. I did not hear it from Sean. Let me make that implicitly clear. But I had also heard that Matthews signed an extension a while back, which is good news. And I had also heard that Malachi Black has time ticking on his contract. How much time that is debatable. PW Insider reported into 2025. I had heard end of this year. Again, not reported by me, not reported by Sean, not reported by Fightful. But there's confusion on the length of the terms of these deals. I don't know if there's injury time applied. I don't know what the options might be as far as like who's picking up what, who's opting in, who's opting out. But there does seem to be some considerable confusion around the House of Black. But it seems like Buddy Matthews is staying and that Malachi is still a little up in the air. So
I think they're in the dark or something.
it's like they're just any of the information about it is just blacked out. You know what I mean? So
Like they need to turn on the lights or something.
inside that entire house. But any thoughts on those? It does seem like they've been a unit kind of their entire careers. It would be weird for them to be split up, but you never know what's going on backstage or people's preferences or in personal lives. Both of them damn fine wrestlers in the ring. I would like to see Buddy Matthews get a little bit more shine, but obviously his wife is in WWE, so who the heck knows? Any thoughts from you, fellas?
I'm a bigger Buddy fan than I am Malachi, to be quite honest. So kind of hoping for him, like you said, to get that shine. Though I'm of the three, I'm the biggest Brody. Brody's my guy. I mean, he's the one I like out of the three of them the most.
Hell
So
yeah.
I kind of
He's
his
awesome.
push to go, but it's weird because both like I know ignoring NXT for a second because you have to ignore NXT because they're just it's its own little bubble that existed back then. His booking in both companies has been kind of similar, whereas like he's presented really cool. He's considered like dominant, but he doesn't actually win anything big. It's a weird.
It is
Similar to like
yeah. Except they had a pretty substantive trios titles run. Like that was the only time the trios titles kind of had any importance. It did kind of feel like maybe we were headed back to them winning the trios titles. The whole trios picture I'm going to rant about later because what the fuck? Like this has gotten out of control with the inconsistency about what you do with titles and injuries in any of the promotions that are under the AEW umbrella because Lord knows MJF was defending tag titles without his partner and winning. So that is frustrating. But Joe, any thoughts on House of Black? I don't think we've ever gotten a proper are you on the side of spooky wrestling or are you anti-spooky wrestling poll.
Limited. I'm a very like I don't need a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you use too much of it, then just a little bit, I don't know, carny like for me.
Sure, I get that.
So yeah, I'm with Ryan with like Brody's my favorite of the House of Black. I feel Buddy has the most upside, and Malachi pretty consistent and you know good at kind of a linchpin of that faction, but it just doesn't ever seem like he's happy in AEW. So like, I feel like he's just kind of biding his time until whenever his contract ends to look elsewhere, maybe.
Well, we will see. We will certainly see. I feel like Brody is kind of the one that has broken out of that stable alongside Julia Hart. Could be if Malachi leaves and Buddy stays, there's all sorts of fun opportunities of, you know, who knows? Maybe when Adam Copeland is healthy, he bounces Buddy out or somebody else can replace him or Brody takes front and center of that faction and they add plenty of possibilities when we're in Spooky World for sure, but we are going to take a little bit of a break here. We're going to tell you about some of the awesome shows on the Shining Wizards Network, but before we do that, we're going to tell you all about the ways that you can support us, and here they are already. There's a couple of free ones that we would really appreciate. And that's if you leave a thumbs up on this video. There's a little like button somewhere around here, I believe. I would really appreciate it if you would give it a little because it helps people find us in the algorithm. And the more people that find us in the algorithm, the better. The other ways that you can support us, you could subscribe to this YouTube channel. You could also do that on whatever platform that you listen to podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review on that. Also very helpful. But if you're like, I want to throw some dollars at these guys, but I want to do so in the most fashionable way possible. Well, let me tell you, Pro Wrestling Tees, find our store over on that wonderful website. And you can pick from any of these 4 designs to support us. And we have the front and back ones on the right there, those last 2. We've got just your OG logos on the first 2 that you see on the left. And if you want to support the show, you should buy a t-shirt. And if you want to support women, you should buy this t-shirt because I'm a woman and I'm on the show. So you are a misogynist if you don't buy our t-shirt. That is the math that I run with every week on this show, most weeks at least. We do appreciate it. If you are poking around Pro Wrestling Tees, buying some wrestling merch, please consider us in your orders, especially if you're trying to beat those shipping fees and charges. Thank you, Certified Booty Goon. What a handle, but coming in with the support of shout out to women. Thank you so much. Best way to shout us out.
God, that name is amazing.
That's a fantastic name. They're certified. I want to know what the certification process was, or maybe I don't. How do you become a certified one? I have questions. We're going to have a Certified Booty Goon on this show someday. It's delightful.
It's certified.
You were worried about my cousin being somebody else. I'm keeping an eye out on Certified Booty Goon, but we are going to take a minute to tell you about some of the shows on the Shining Wizards Network. The Shining Wizards podcast themselves coming up on their 700th episode on Monday. My goodness, what an accomplishment. I mean, I've done 700 shows in like 2.5 years. No big deal. But they have done it once a week for years and years and years. I'm very, very happy for them as much as I bust their balls and they bust mine. I love that I got started there. That's the whole reason we have this show. It's the whole reason I've been able to do this most nights of the week. I met them at the G1 Super Show with ROH at MSG like 5.5 years ago, maybe a little less. And they've been just such a big part of my life and such a fun part of wrestling podcasting. Some of the best interviews you'll ever get, because Matt likes to ask weird questions about eating raw horse meat if you've been to Japan, and the last time wrestlers shit their pants in the ring. Ethan Page had a really fun story about pooping your pants. But support them. Go over there, subscribe, please, for their 700th episode especially. Please show out the best that you can. But we're going to take a minute to tell you more about the shows on this very Shining Wizards network.
Every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
If you like your music heavy, then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is radioactive metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway.
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
And we love the Shining Wizards Network, and the Shining Wizards Network loves you. Please support all the wonderful shows that you just heard about. Check something out if there's something that tickles your fancy, but most importantly, support us, because we're the best. We're the best ones in the whole wide world, and especially on that network. So, but let's get into this Blood and Guts episode. Man, it was a tale of two episodes for me. I felt like the first hour sucked, and I thought the rest of it was really good. I thought the women knocked it out of the park tonight. I thought the Blood and Guts match, well, complete nonsense, was a lot of fun and outkicked the coverage of the build that it gave us. I just don't give a shit about any of the stories coming out of it other than Swerve and Hangman, which I cared about before Blood and Guts started, which I cared about if this Blood and Guts match didn't exist. So I've got some qualms with that we're gonna get into, but Joe, kind of what did you think overall of what we got tonight? I felt like this episode was all over the place.
For me, overall, it just kind of, It was probably about if we're ranking our on our fun level scales and all that stuff, I'm probably about a 2 and maybe 2 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it built around blood and guts and everything else, but it just wasn't. It felt like it dragged on, and I don't know. The pacing was different for me. It felt like an average show to me.
That is fair. Just so that the people that are watching know, you said a 2 3/4, which is between a 2 and a 3 on the fun scale. Can you pull up a 2 and a 3 on the fun scale just so that
I got it, Joe.
People, yeah.
And this is a 3. So, but this is the one Kate really wanted to see.
So, Ryan, taking level 2 and level 3, since I said 2 3/4, can you now in live real time make a 2 3/4 face?
God,
it'd be like a half.
This is actually more difficult than I think.
This is tough. I am disturbed, but I'm delighted that you attempted it. So, for those that don't know, Ryan finds everything fun, and he says that I think everything is garbage and not for me. But I only think that really about the learning tree, which we will definitely get into tonight. But Ryan, overall, what did you think? Are you feeling a little bit oversaturated by these styles of matches? Because we have Anarchy in the arena, we get blood and guts. This doesn't feel like the final blow off to a feud, so it doesn't feel like that it's doing its purpose of kind of creating conclusions to storylines. But you might have had a bloody good time. I don't know why I think that, but your thoughts?
I had a bloody fun time, just so everyone's aware. I mean, I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed the match. I mean, there is a bit of like, we keep getting these should be, it's not that every no DQ or Texas Deathmatch should be a feud ender, but something like Blood and Guts should be. Anarchy in the Arena should be. Or they should book it.
That I agree with.
Anarchy, like either they start and finish or they finish. There's no. So I agree with that. But I think the problem wrestling has in general, and it's not even though I enjoy it and I love it, is that you have just so much wrestling that you're going to see similar type matches all the time. It's just impossible at this point. Because if we were getting none of these, we'd say, are we getting too many technical style matches? I'd be like, well,
I would never ask that question.
You might.
I'm a Tekker sicko, but I agree with you. One of AEW's strengths is the buffet that we have of styles of matches. I think that's something that they do better pretty much than any other wrestling promotion that's out there right now. I think they offer the most variety in that regard. I do feel like we're getting a little solid with these. And I also feel like I just wasn't invested in the babyface side. So that took away a lot of my enjoyment. Bryan Danielson not being in this, FTR not being in this, whether that was because of injury or not, who knows. But not having Moxley there, who feels like the soul of this company, not having Eddie Kingston available because he's definitely injured, just hurts it, just handicaps it a little bit. And the Acclaimed, though Bowens did some really fun stuff, and Max took the same spot that they always do in these. Like, it was fun to watch, but I just didn't feel like I got what I needed out of it for this to kind of continue. But that is the last match on the show. I'm gonna throw a wild card to you guys. Do you want to just talk about that match first, since it took up so much oxygen? Okay, let's talk about this blood and guts match, and then we will go back and talk about the rest of the show, because this was the marquee event here. We'll talk about everything else, but it's always fun to watch, I feel like, but it never is stuff that makes sense. Like, for example, nobody gets pinned in this, but Darby Allin does a coffin drop off the top of the cage, right? And it's submission or surrender. That doesn't actually make sense, but it's fun as hell. So I really appreciate that about it. But we let's dive into it right now. We get these promos beforehand. This feels like too little too late for me, with Mark Briscoe being like the rallying voice of the troops. There is dissension between the Acclaimed and Swerve, obviously, so that adds an interesting wrinkle to that. Of they had that long storied tag rivalry for so long, so there should be like a little bit of caution on everybody. Darby and Swerve obviously hated each other for a long time, so Mark Briscoe just kind of being the guy to say like, hey, this is for the soul of AEW, I think is a cool thing to do. But we start with Jack Perry and Darby Allin. And before Darby can even get in, you have Jack Perry absolutely clobbering him, which I thought was fun. There's a bunch of just violence, bunch of trash. Some fans are trying to get involved here. Big clotheslines. So some fun stuff that we get early. You get Jack kind of toying with Darby in this right before Nick Jackson enters. He has this very large briefcase and a chair with him. Really, really nice sell from Darby off of that guillotine early in this, right as Matt Jackson is entering. You get just the numbers game kind of catching up here. I'm saving the spots for Joe, but the DDT onto the briefcase was definitely of note in this. The Northern Lights to Darby across the ring with the catapult into the case was also very nice. And the backstabber with Mark, I thought was really good. Bowen's entering next. He, I thought, did a really good job in an environment that is not his job. He's awesome at wrestling, and Max Caster is not. I don't know how many times I can go through that, but we get a nice death drop with him in this on Matt Jackson. Good stuff from Bowens, I feel like, throughout the entire match, but let me keep scrolling down my notes here. Sorry, I took a lot of notes, and I'm trying to be a recap gal so that this doesn't take forever. And then after Bowens, we get Nick Jackson. Do we get Nick Jackson after Bowens? Am I right? I am. Nick Jackson is next, because then we just have we had Nick Jackson and then Bowens. That's what it was. Okay. My bad. My apologies.
Yeah, because then you had Okada after that.
Okada coming in here. Sorry, my notes are all over the place. We have a Rainmaker Av sign of notes. Okada got a really big reaction in this. I think they really need to get him in more singles matches. But the tombstone onto the side was such an awesome moment. The drop kick into the trash can, also very fun. Lot of fun spots in here. But then we get to what we really, really want. We have Okada, handful of tacks, puts them in Caster's mouth. The Bucks pump up their shoes, super kick to the max. Nick with a he ain't rapping anymore. And finally, here comes Hangman Page. Page is nowhere to be seen at the top of this because he, of course, is waiting for Swerve. This is not about the rest of the guys in this match for Hangman Page. This is about him getting his hands on Swerve again, who enters last. He was positioned really well in this, I felt like. I thought they did a good job with his spots in this. Hangman comes in with the chair finally. He attacks Swerve's neck, but Prince Nana scurries off here, which I thought was good. He locks up with Swerve, and there's a bit of a short link there at the, the cage, but chaos just kind of ensues now that everybody is there. I mentioned the Darby Allin spot from the top of the cage, which was awesome. Paige just punching the hell out of Swerve was a whole bunch of fun in this. Daddy Ass comes out here. Jeff Jarrett comes out here. This is when kind of went off the rails for me into fun chaos, into too much chaos. I thought the Brainbuster spot was very, very fun, but I just could not care less about the Acclaimed. I'm going to let the rest of the chaos kick over to you, outside of Darby showing up with the steel chair. Mark has a chair again. Matt is watching, cuffed from the bottom rope here. Matt's trying to talk some sense into Mark, but Darby pays tribute to my man, Kingston, in this. walks over to Jack and pours a gasoline on Jack Perry's face. We've seen him get set on fire before in Anarchy in the Arena. He turns to Matt in the ring, laughs at him, and leaves the ring again. Darby with the mic says, I'm going to light your ass on fire if you don't quit. He wants a shot at the TNT title. And he gets Matt Jackson to say, I quit, in order not to set Jack Perry on fire. So started off kind of slow, really, really picked up. This was maybe my least favorite of the blood and guts we've gotten, but the stakes for me, the bar is very, very high with these. I don't know. I didn't love the ending. I don't like the Acclaimed being in this. I think the Lucha Brothers could have done a lot more fun work than we got here. Leave Jeff Jarrett out of this. Leave Daddy Ass out of it, though I did like, Swerve tried to bolt cutter that man open alive. So I get it. I get the animosity that's there. I don't know. This one didn't hit the same for me, but the ending is really what I didn't like the most of this. I also just hate I Quit matches in general, but a lot of it was the fun, violent, goofy shit that we like. It just didn't live up to the hype, probably because the build hasn't been great. But overall, while watching it, I thought it was fun. I just don't really love what we context of things. Joe, I'll start with you because you are a designated spot caller outside of me. Anything you want to talk about here?
I agree with you that it wasn't my favorite Blood and Guts match. It was fun for all the spots and all the craziness. A lot of the spots are kind of repetitive of what we've seen before. The team, AEW, what you said, it didn't give people a lot to invest in because there wasn't a lot of story behind why they came together. Even it never really felt like they were together. It always felt like they were in the match for their own selfish purposes and not necessarily for AEW. Like, you expected they'd be like rocking AEW t-shirts or something, like just waving that flag, but they're all in there for their own personal gain. And even by the end of the match, you find out that the end of the match leads to Darby getting a title shot. There's like this whole convoluted way of him getting a title shot at Jack Perry. So I'm like, it just seems like a lot of work to get to that match. I like the idea of having Darby start out the match, though. I thought,
sure.
he's a sicko enough to want to take all the bumps, all the spots from bell to bell. So that made a lot of sense to me. I love Bowens with the scissors. I thought he used the scissors well.
Yeah. Those were good. That was well done.
Jabbing people in the head, giving people the whatever, I can't remember, opening up the mouth and scissoring the mouth of them. Trying to think, I really enjoyed Swerve with a staple gun. I don't think anyone is as deadly with a staple gun as Swerve is, and the spot with him and Okada probably popped me the most.
Sure.
Stapled gun to his middle finger. Trying to think, and the other thing I learned that you can just cut through all this malarkey and just threaten to burn someone on fire and win the match from the start. That's what I've learned.
Go straight to arson is a really, really good lesson.
Go straight to attempted murder.
Yeah.
Win.
I think that's a good point. An astute observation. I do feel like this match succeeds in that it's always fun to watch and that the format always feels fresh because the time between competitors is not that far apart. And I feel like that keeps it fun because it's obvious this match is not going to end before everybody gets in the ring, which is always a bummer. So you're kind of just watching spot fests until then, but they do a good enough job and the intervals are not so long that it feels like it's unbuy-inable. Like my attention is still grabbed for this. This one in particular, and Ryan, I'm curious to see what you think because I just don't feel like it was different enough from Anarchy in the Arena. Like the format always succeeds, but like,
I didn't think Team AEW should have won. I think the Elite should have won this too, but
it's so weird because it's like Team AEW needed it to look strong, but they're not believable as a team. So, and the idea that Darby got the win and not Swerve, I'm just like, that's your champion, man. So I don't know. But Ryan, what do you think about this? What did you think of the booking? And do you feel like it was just a little bit too similar to Anarchy in the Arena? I don't know where you go from guy was hanging upside down like a piñata last time. You know what I mean? Like, how do you go above and beyond that?
Pin the tail on the donkey?
You could have done that. They could have gone the pin the tail on the donkey route, except Darby Allin, when he turns sideways, just disappears because he's so little. So I don't know.
That's fair. So, couple things here. You were talking earlier about who you thought would be on Team AEW, and the better story for this whole Elite storyline would be that this group stood up to the Elite and couldn't win, and then maybe some others stood up to the Elite and couldn't win, and it took the best of the best AEW people to finally put all aside their differences to come together and say, all right, let's end this. But they didn't want to go with that story. So
it's tough because you've committed to this umbrella story, but this build didn't work. So like, how do you move on from it? You don't want to drag it out more, but you're also like, you're so deep in the trenches with it already, is insane. I also just got word that our friend who we were talking about before, Mansoor, is going to be showing up at CMLL in Arena, Mexico on the 23rd of August. So that is cool and hot off the press. That makes me very happy for that dude. But Ryan, what did you think of the match itself? Did you give a shit about the build at all while you were watching it? I would imagine you have a fun scale, so I imagine it would be pretty high on.
I mean, listen, the match itself, because the match is the match, was a bloody fun time.
Sure.
The build was a healthy dose of fun, which is only a 1. Again, the story for this should have been the Acclaimed, Mark Briscoe, and like maybe a couple others tried to defeat the Elite on their own, and they couldn't do it. And then it took a team like FTR, Swerve, Moxley. I can understand leaving Danielson out maybe, but even Danielson, it took those guys stepping in and being like, okay, I hate to say for lack of, here are the big boys. Like we're going to come, we're going to end this. But they didn't want to go that route, and it was weird. The problem, I mean, listen, the match had a lot of fun moments. Darby doing the monkey bars into the coffin drop was awesome. But the ending was weird because the ending was very heelish. Threatening to light a guy on fire.
True. Like, I'm supposed to be rooting for this guy who's threatening homicide.
Yeah, in front of his friend, to the point where his friend is begging for mercy and has to quit to give the match. That is a face move, like a face move to give in. It's not, and it's a heel move to demand it. So it was really weird to have Darby. Now I know Darby's crazy, which is part of what Darby and Swerve have a little bit of the same thing, which is they'll do anything to their opponents that they deem necessary. But at the same point, it still felt very much like a heel storyline.
It is funny too, because before that we had like Sheeta being a face and like the I'm a face so I never cheat thing. Like and then right on the back of it you have Darby doing basically the most heelish thing possible, to your point. So that's frustrating. It is frustrating. It feels like this whole thing has gotten really muddy on the booking for sure. It is like the Acclaimed being in there is so weird, and it's like not only them being in it, but having the absence of guys that feel like AEW Day One guys is tough. And part of it is because legitimately they're on the other side of this thing just because of booking. Like Hangman feels like a Day One guy, but right now he's an insane cowboy, right? So there's like, I would feel like in a different world, I like the Young Bucks working heel personally, but they're the AVPs of the company. They should be defending the soul of AEW, right? So it's
almost like they shouldn't have called it the Elite versus AEW.
Yeah. Or like,
it's almost like
there was no, I heard Sean say this earlier and I liked what he was saying. Like, we had no emotional buy-in along the way. Like, there was no Mark Briscoe saying, this company picked me up when I lost my brother in a tragic car accident and my birthday was the next day. And I didn't know if my niece and nephew were going to be alive. Like, that's what they did for me. Like, that emotional appeal of the soul of AEW being there just was absent from this whole build. And I think it really hurt when you're trying to put the good guys over, because I have no attachment to them other than, like, Darby's a maniac all the time, right? He didn't even say anything about AEW really in this. He makes the most sense in it, but
it just never felt like they were getting real purpose or stakes of, if Team AEW wins, what does that change? Because I feel like the Elite can still do the Elite thing. They can still be EVPs and do whatever they want. So what was the value of winning, like, other than Darby getting a title shot and maybe slowly picking away the gold from the Elite?
Which, by the way, was not a precondition to the match.
No. So, like, that's one of my issues with the outcome of, like, there just wasn't. Congratulations, you got the win back, but what did that change going forward?
Like, Mark Briscoe's defending his ROH title this weekend. You know what I mean? Like, this, he has no. You won, so now what is a really great point, Joe, and it's a little bit maddening. And Ryan, it is tough when you know that this has to continue. So what does that look like? And the picking away the gold thing, I don't think anyone wants the Acclaim versus the Young Bucks at Wembley. That fucking sucks, right? So, like, what does that look like? Do they get written out and we find out GYV was announced and they win at Wembley? Like, where do we go from here with this? Because I don't know, man.
So there's a couple things. They should have been, if your thing here is that we want to start picking away the gold, then the story going into this should have been that the Elite didn't want to put their gold up in any title defenses, and because they were the EVPs and of the company, they could get away with it, and so therefore Darby, someone for Okada, and then someone other than the Acclaimed for the tags could come in and say, if we win this, we all get our shots at Wembley.
Yeah,
and that would have at least been a stake where you're like, they're forcing them to do something.
Yeah,
but I think you nailed it when you said the Elite they started AEW. They are, in theory. So it really shouldn't be AEW versus the Elite. It should be the Elite versus, like, the common man. It should be the Elite versus like, the Elite shouldn't be like, we hate this company. It should be, we hate you.
or, like, if the idea is that they lost their way because they're so drunk with power, they're not abusing that power anymore, really. Like, in the beginning, they were, and it was hilarious because they were doing it in a comedic way, right? Like, when they were banning people from the building, and, like, they fired Christopher Daniels, but he's just still around, right? Like, they didn't abuse their way into this match. They didn't, like, push Mark Briscoe to the brink where he had to fight them. So if you want to do that story, it's available to you, but it's not the story that was told to us.
This is a 6-month story.
It was messy. The match was messy in a fun way.
But this is a 6-month story told in, like, 3 months. It could even be a 9-month story told in 3 months. And the problem with that is all the time you would take to build out these individual elements that would give you stakes and emotion are removed. We fire Christopher Daniels. He should be gone for a few months with Tony Khan gone for a few months, until the triumphant return where Christopher Daniels comes back as his mouthpiece. But that happened in, like, 2 weeks. And they should be targeting Mark Briscoe for a few months, trying to screw him over until he's finally had enough. And this over and over and over again for months and months and months, until the pieces start to align where enough people have been fed up. And that all would have culminated with Christopher Daniels returning and saying, power's coming back. You've had your way without Tony Khan's voice in this company for 6 months or 9 months. He hired me back to be his voice. I'm leveling the playing field. And then suddenly someone who Mark Briscoe, who'd been tortured for 5 months, could get his revenge. Suddenly the Acclaimed, as much as we hate him, Elite, again, ignoring that you're distasteful for him, they have no story. But if they had been tortured for 5 months, then Christopher Daniels comes back and says, no, they're getting their shots. There'd be something there. Because they made this like a 3-month story, we skipped all of that.
Well, it felt like it was a 3-month story with interchanging parts. I think you can even accomplish, because it's a chapter in a bigger story, right? Like, I think you could have accomplished that, but it just felt like because of injuries and stuff, this all changed. And then it was like, I don't know, give them an eliminator match. So kind of a bummer, because I really liked what was going on here, but hopefully they course correct as we move on to Wembley. why don't we move on in our conversation here and go back to the beginning? Let's go back to the start. A very good place to start. Osprey has a flat tire and Marvez saves him. I'm good with that. We don't need to get into that, but we got MJF.
Can we address that for 1 second?
Sure, go for it. I don't know why Marvez was conveniently parked there, but sure.
At the hotel, right?
Yeah.
With the camera crew.
Of course.
That's what I didn't understand.
I mean, yes, that part of that is wrestling, but it is weird.
Or did you not understand the fact that when Marvez asked Osprey if he'd driven before, how do you think he got to the hotel, Alex? His car is right there.
Yeah, his car
and
is
also,
there.
Ubers are a thing now.
I know, but like, have you driven to America? Like, dude, my car just had a knife that I drove into the hotel with.
Yeah.
Like this would have. I'm not usually want to like be this nitpicky, but this whole thing would have been a lot better had they filmed it on a phone. And Osprey.
Yeah, if they did a phone thing.
He could have come out and been like on his phone and been like, I can't look at my car. I'm trying to get an Uber. There's none available for whatever reason. It's taking me forever to get one to come around. Like all these excuses as to the delay. And it would have been a lot more logical than Marvez happens to be there with the camera. Or if you wanted Marvez there, still with the phone, you could have had him pull it up and be like, what's going on here?
We pick and choose when we have a fourth wall.
Yeah,
we do, but it was like the fourth wall and the car placement, and like it was a lot. It was a lot.
I mean, guys, you know me. It's very rare that something will take me that out of it. And I was literally just at the beginning like, what the hell are we doing here?
What is that? Yeah, it was weird.
Also, in a place that could not have looked more like the arena if it tried.
Yeah, no, that straight up looked like the arena. Like I got what they were going for, but it was not well done. But we go to the ring where there's some cheerleaders welcoming MJF. He cuts off his music and starts to dig into Osprey a little bit, calls him a gutless coward because he couldn't hit the Tiger Driver, says he couldn't beat Swerve, so of course he's not going to be able to beat MJF, and that he hasn't forgotten about his world title. He's just waiting for the right moment. And I liked that because there's been this elephant in the room for me with MJF of why isn't he going back for his world title? He didn't enter the Owen, etc., etc. He says he beat Will without breaking a sweat, which is hysterical because we all saw the image of him sucking oxygen down, get his ass kicked by a little girl. Easiest match of his life. He did it quick and efficient. Dominant victory for him. And that people are calling for Will Ospreay to retire. All of these silly, silly things. Makes some digs about his dead grandmother. A lot of dead relative jokes on this show or references because we had the patriarchy on here as well. But we get MJF saying that he calls him worthless, and he holds the title up and says that the title is worthless. It makes a puke sound. Working hard is for the pores. We like this belt because it was an international talent. And he says that nobody outside of the USA matters. It makes everything unpatriotic and treasonous. And he deserves a title that's worthy of his intellect, bank account, and upbringing, all of which is superior, and that title is nothing more than garbage. He does the Medusa spot, unveils a new title. It's so ugly. It's such an ugly title. It does remind me of if you took like a hard heel stance on what Will Ospreay did, bringing back the UK title to New Japan. There is a reason that belt straps are one color, and you saw it here. Or just like the plates behind them are a solid color, and you saw it here. I think it's kind of supposed to look shitty. I don't think this was the plan, so I think this belt was probably rushed. But Ospreay is here. He made it to the arena that he was at this whole time. And he says MJF knew he couldn't beat him, so he reached into his trunks, grabbed out his little dick, and pulled out a diamond ring and cracked it over his skull. MJF would rather cheat than admit that Will is on another level. He's got his rematch at All In. I'm wondering if we are on the way to building a 4-pack here. I need them to knock it the fuck off with this title stuff. I get why MJF did it, and it makes sense he did it. This title has been held across 3 people. It's had 3 different names. We have the CMLL women's title being fought over by Chris Statlander and Willow later. We have the tag titles not being defended. We have the Continental title not being defended. We have the AEW ROH trios titles merged, and then the ROH ones just disappeared, and they have different rules. Get it the fuck together in your title picture. Holy hell. Especially because this belt is probably going to be an interim belt, right? I think they had Will lose so that he could probably win it back at Wembley unless they're going the 4-pack route with Pac and Garcia. I'm going to throw it to Joe first on this. What did you think of the promo? A lot of low-hanging fruit stuff. I don't mind MJF with the low-hanging fruit stuff because he always starts with that and ends up somewhere with like a ton of layers and soul and whatever. So usually that's like the beginning of the story, you get this, and then later on we move into some more sincere stuff. What do you think of what we got tonight?
Yeah. The promo from MJF and everything else, and the belt and the title belt change, it felt really repetitive. So I understand where you're coming from there, and I felt like this character that he's, the gimmick or persona he's portraying right now as the American champion or the international champion, it feels very much kind of like, he's taking cues because of it feels very much political season of his character and his revisionist history and his promos and his over the topness.
Definitely felt intentional to be too.
Yeah, so it felt very much like a bunch of stump speeches of like when politicians are out and about and they're kind of creating their own narratives based on altered facts. So that's kind of what his character felt like to me tonight. Are
you saying they needed to control their narrative?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't always work out well.
It does not always work out well. In fact, sometimes it's just like a massive failure. But Ryan, what did you think?
Well, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I can't even continue. The belt is ugly as sin.
It's ugly. It's an ugly belt.
But what I love is it's so intentional.
It does feel very on purpose.
I actually really like this because it's clever, because we've seen both sides of the patriotic thing. We've seen the obvious, like the Patriots, the good guy against the evil foreigner, but we have seen the bad guy patriot, because as times have changed, people wanted to embrace that. This is kind of like, I'm not really a patriot, I'm a me fan, and I live here, so this is where the greatest place is. Has less to do about country and more just to do about him, and I kind of like that. It's an interesting twist on his character. I mean, he put his face on the flag. His face was the stars. So like it's 100% less about the country, more about him, and I just really like that twist on it, where it's and it makes sense because
was the stars is just a great thing to be able to say.
Yeah, and he took a belt that was the international and he said, "No, it's the American." Like it's such a. But in his speech, he goes, "But I'm not talking about you, Nashville." Like he insulted, like, so he wasn't being that. When the USA chant started, he handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
And Joe said it. We're in politics season, so he's going to have a lot to play with, depending on where he is, too.
And he's done his own campaign before, too.
He has. But if he's in the red areas, he can give some talking points that are blue. And if he's in blue areas, he'll give some talking points that are red, and he'll know how to play that crowd. I get your point on the belts. There are a lot of belts, and they're all over the place. Some things you said, like I don't mind the CMLL thing. They're trying to hype up the partnership. I can accept that for right now because that is a totally separate company. Your ROH stuff, completely agree with. That needs to be sorted out. The biggest problem I have is the Continental's not defended right now, and that's annoying. So I like when these get my problem is you have MJF now with the international, and you have Okada with the Continental, and if Okada's not defending, and MJF historically just doesn't defend his belts, we're going to have 2 belts that just never get defended. And I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't know how long MJF is holding that, and they don't hot potato belts a lot, so I'm not against the idea of MJF leading Super Patriotic to go into Wembley and let Will Ospreay be the pride of the UK. Like that's kind of fun and fine.
Okay. Hold on a second. We're at Wembley. Hear me out. This is what he needs to do. You start hearing the pipes play. You know, there's colonial pipes we all know. And a group of Minutemen walk MJF to the ring.
Oh Lord. I mean, they'll probably do that. It's Max. They'll be wearing Burberry jackets. They'll be fantastic.
That would be hilarious. Even better. They make a fake boat and they put Max in the George Washington position like he's crossing the Delaware.
Oh Lord.
Like Apollo Creed.
Yes, Joe.
My God.
My worst case fear would be that somehow they keep both of these titles and MJF defends the American title against Garcia, and Will has the actual international title and has a program with Pac.
I now have a fear that I did not have like 20 seconds ago. So thank you. But they already set up the rematch for this, so hopefully that is not the case. We also did have commentary saying like you can't just make a belt later, so hopefully this is just all
AEW does it all the time.
They sure do. My other thing is like none of them are on Collision anymore. Like all of the belts are on AEW, either being held hostage or defended there on Dynamite and never on Collision. So it's just very frustrating. But we get a quick coin toss backstage. The Elite are standing over a beaten down Christopher Daniels. Matt wants to use his own coin, and this is going to shock you guys, but do you know who won the coin flip?
I know who didn't win it.
Who didn't win it?
Team AEW.
That is correct. We already talked about that match, so spoiler alert, but it would seem that perhaps when Matt Jackson introduced their own coin, it was double-sided in their favor.
I like how Bright just accepted that and didn't even check the coin.
He's had enough of their shit, so.
If you're Bryce, what are you going to do? They just beat up Christopher Daniels.
I mean, get your own coin for the love of the game. For the love of the game, Ryan.
But then he'd get beat up.
He's a referee. You gotta be prepared for these situations. Hey, this sucked. Chris Jericho's bad at wrestling. He had a bloody titty. That was funny. Before this match, I knew that Minoru Suzuki hit people really hard. And after this match, I also knew that Minoru Suzuki hit people really hard. This was so fucking lame. Jericho getting out of 2 pile drivers is sickening to me. Who could possibly have cared about this? This is so stupid. End of the shit. It's so bad. This went on way too long, too. It's a fun match to have, like, admittedly, on a Blood and Guts card, because that's going to be dominated by one thing. So if you want to throw Minoru Suzuki on it, that's cool. But, like, the fact that the women's matches were so short and that you had Pac versus Boulder ending the way it did, this is so fucking... I was so fucking bored. Which I don't think I've ever said during a Minoru Suzuki match. I was bored. I was like, oh wow, he chopped the shit out of him. Didn't know. That's all this match was. It was that and some forearms. And Jericho poorly getting out of 2 pile driver attempts. Ye fucking haw. I did pop when his titty was bleeding, though. That kind of ruled. Not gonna lie. That was very satisfying for me. I don't want the learning tree versus Shibata-san and Hook. Let him out of this fucking angle. This whole thing was that it was a joke on the Jericho Vortex. Hook is actually stuck in the Jericho Vortex. He has not moved on since this angle started. My God. What a waste of everybody's fucking time. Ryan, I give this the Kate scale of 0 funds. This trash is not for me. This garbage is not for me. No funds to be had during this exception. Jericho had a bloody titty.
So are you saying
Ryan,
you would have?
you like this? You like this trash for some reason? Go ahead.
Are you saying you would have preferred them to leaf this off the card?
I really wish I was logged into our Streamyard so I could pull myself off the stream and then put myself back on the stream after you were done making bad jokes. But yes,
You want to yell at me? Maybe bark at me?
I wish.
Sure, you got to branch out and get some new noises.
I do wish you keep saying things that weren't that one. He's not the problem here, okay? I do wish this would make like a tree.
I am a corny person.
What did you think of? What did you think of this dog shit match?
It was a dog shit match.
Even you didn't like it.
No, I mean, it was a dog shit match. I can't listen. I like the character, the learning tree. I will not deny it. That for whatever reason, that sense of nerddom gets me. But like this way, hi guys, that makes me laugh. He can't. He's just lost whatever he. Listen, he went well into his 50s, being a pretty decent wrestler. Like, obviously, in his 20s and 30s, he was great, and in his 40s, he was pretty great. But in the 50s, he managed, and he's lost whatever it is. He's lost. Now, the sad part is, he probably would have more of it if he just took some time off. But he just won't. So, like, sometimes you just need to sit in the sun and grow.
It was so bad. Meet Normus. Meet Normus. Ate some spinach. That's how fucking bad this was.
Is he Popeye? He yams what he yams.
He's Meet Normus. He doesn't eat vegetables. Do you know how bad something has to be if Meet Normus prefers vegetables over it?
That means the match. Yeah, the match did not crank.
It did not crank. See, Joe knows. Joe, what did you think of this terrible match?
Oh, I'm in lockstep with you guys. It felt I'm like, okay, cool. They're gonna do this whole shopping thing. It'll last for a couple minutes, whatever, and we'll move on from it. No, they went through commercial break after commercial break, and it felt very much like something I would see at my local indie show, where they just do kind of this like almost like a comedy bit of doing this, and it went too long. So I know some people might love it, and love watching Suzuki chop the shit out of Jericho, but other people like us are just gonna be like, nope, not for us. So I didn't have a lot of notes on this match other than that, and I thought Suzuki looked really fluid in his drop step into his sleeper hold that he does.
Yes.
For being an older guy, being able to just like drop down, pop up.
It's a bigger dude too.
Kind of guy, yeah. I thought that was really fluid. And my other thought was, for a title match for a belt that's not recognized by AEW, and an FCW match that has no rules, how do we enforce the fact that the learning tree people aren't able to be out there?
That's a very good point.
We'd have to really dig into the roots of that issue, and I don't think we have the time.
Oh my god, let's move on really fast from this for so many reasons, but Ryan belaboring these puns is certainly at the top of that list at this particular moment. But yeah, this was 13 minutes and 51 seconds.
It should have been 3:51 at the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I actually say, I actually want to address that. That is part of the issue here, though. Like, why like, if you want to have the matches like a breaking up of the episode, because you are going to have an hour-long match at the end, so if you want to give something silly in between, it doesn't need to be that long.
Yeah, I would have had way less of a problem with this if it was 6-7 minutes. Honestly, like I would have been happy with it at 3:51, like Joe said. But this was a 6-7 minute match where they just beat the fuck out of each other for a little bit. That's fine. That's
but then it ended flat. Like all of a sudden, Jericho was getting his ass whooped the whole match. All of a sudden, oh, I'm gonna win. It just it's a juice out of nowhere.
That's what That's the best he can do right now, to be honest. But post match,
What
we
would
get.
you do?
I would take Chris Jericho off my screen. I chose to answer that sincerely and no sell your shitty joke.
Joe sit in timeout.
Big Bill and Brian Keith do attack after Minoru Suzuki does deliver that pile driver. Post match, Ed Shibata comes out to help run them off. So yada yada yada. This bullshit continues. Backstage, we get Renee with Willow Nightingale, and she has her CMLL championship. She stepped in there in the absence of Stephanie Vaquer, which I thought was or Vacker, I think is how you pronounce her name. We finally got to the bottom of that. But Stokely comes into frame, and Chris Statlander beats the hell out of Willow, drops her on some crew equipment. Stokely sets up a challenge next week for Willow in an eliminator match. I'm sure that will go out without a hitch, as all things with Stokely Hathaway for his entire life do. Any thoughts on that getting set up? I leave the floor open to you.
Willow is a type of tree.
Joe, anything?
Let's move on from anything that's tree related.
Are you a weeping Willow?
Oh, I want to just cut off a branch and whip you with a switch.
Oh, that would be the best thing involving a tree and wrestling. To this
You guys are
point.
pining for me to stop.
I am pining for you to stop, and I'm also pining for the Jeff Jarrett jerk-off session to stop. Okay, we get it. We get it, Jeff Jarrett. You had a really beautiful and moving interview regarding the Owen. Why is he giving Bryan Danielson advice? Bryan Danielson, the greatest in-ring performer of all time. Bryan Danielson, who wrestled better with an eye patch than Jeff Jarrett ever has in his whole life. I was okay with the beginning of it when he said he didn't win the Owen and that Bryan Danielson overcame those odds. But this pep talk shit with Bryan Danielson was fucking stupid. I'm sorry. This was such a waste of time and so out of place that anybody would need. Like, man, you know what? Bryan Danielson isn't good enough. I need to hype him up. Or, man, Bryan Danielson just isn't passionate about wrestling enough that I have to go hype him up. I get it. We're in Nashville. This was stupid. Find a different way to shoehorn Jeff Jarrett onto the show. Him being like, you know what? Young Bryan Danielson, who's on his fucking retirement tour, needs a pep talk. Makes no sense to me at all. Hot garbage. Putting Double J back into the hate column for me, which is kind of its own win, to be honest, because I got sick of having to pretend I liked what he was doing. But what on earth is the point of this? I leave the floor open to you, fellas.
I had no idea what Jarrett's point was. I never got the sense that Brian was one foot out the door, like, no, geez, shucks. I'm just happy to have this title opportunity, and if I win, I never got that feeling, and it just felt very weird to the fact that as I was listening to Jarrett, I'm like, all right, are you going to be bitter? Are you going to like clothesline Brian and set up a match with him? I mean, it felt like a classic Jarrett thing where he would do a heel move after. That's what I was waiting for, and it never came. I was waiting for it later tonight. During Blood and Guts, it didn't come. I'm like, are we really making Jarrett a face out of a promo that he did that he never won anything from it? It just seems, you would have been better off like him having a backstage segment with like the Hot Tour girl in Nashville.
That would have ruled. Oh, put Joe in creative. That's a great idea. Haktua and double up that thing. I don't even know. And break that thing with a guitar. That sounds terrible for you guys, but Ryan, what? And I cannot stress this enough. The fuck was this?
Talk about a face palm like a tree.
Jesse Ozog is supporting you. And I just want to point that out because you guys have had a storied rivalry, and I feel betrayed by Jesse Ozog.
I mean, don't be all squirrely tonight, just dancing around.
Talk about this.
All right, here's the thing. There's actually a pretty decent story they could have told here, and it's missing like 2 Danielson promos. If Danielson had given a promo before like each of his match where he kind of indicated it didn't matter if he was gonna win or not because he's on his retirement tour, Jarrett could have stepped in and been like, "This does matter. This tournament mattered to me. This whole thing mattered. Make it count." And that's an actual good speech. But Danielson was very into it the whole time, so there's no reason he needs someone to hype him back into it.
And it's for the title on his retirement tour too. Like that doesn't even fully work.
But there is a story where you could say like, if they had wanted to tell it, where Danielson almost seems like he doesn't care because he knows he's at his end, and Jarrett could step in as the guy who's been and be like, first of all, the tournament matters. Here's why, but also this matters because I am like, yes, Brian, you are coming to your retirement, but I'm still even older than you. I know what it's like to look back. Don't have this regret that you are already out the door not caring. But they didn't tell that story with him.
Mm-hmm. So Brian,
I don't even. That's an unviable story for me too, just because of who we know Danielson is and who they've told us he is.
But Danielson's good enough. If he gives the promo, he could have convinced you that that's how he felt.
I don't think there's anything Brian Danielson could say that convinces me he's just here to have fun on his retirement tour.
So see, he's just not that good at his job then.
Brian, would you say that this whole segment was too truncated?
Oh my God, we've lost you. I'm moving on.
Don't get sappy.
I'm moving on. Speaking of sap, I guess Sean's not joining. I accidentally sent him our link. we'll let the chat in. I meant to send Sean a different message and send him our StreamYard link. I told him to come and drop scoops, but I guess he's not giving us free information for something that he makes money off of.
Just swinging in the breeze.
We didn't need him because he would have fell into Brian's tree puns with his
Oh my God.
with his last name and all.
That's a very good
I think
point.
I'm sticking the landing.
You're definitely not. Definitely not. It's not even a tree pun, that's a sap pun. You've gone a branch too far. Sheeta versus Britt Baker. This was probably the most exciting thing to happen on the night because it ends with the debut of Camille, but a fun match that preceded it. Sheeta's so good. Blonde hair Sheeta with the fur looks great. This was a lot of fun, but Britt hits the net breaker, goes for the cover. We get a Falcon Arrow from Sheeta after that doesn't work, but we ultimately have Britt winning with the lockjaw and Sheeta tapping out here. They gave this 10 minutes, which is good. It should have been longer than fucking the Jericho Suzuki match, but honestly, that time probably should have been padded to the 2 following matches. But this was a really solid match. I'm intrigued to see what's coming down the pike for Sheeta. I have here that Mercedes comes out to cut off the celebration, says it's an impressive win, denies Britt her title shots, and we get an attack from Camille with a huge pump kick and a torture rack, and then spins Britt into a powerbomb. I absolutely love this.
I didn't type this, by the way, Kate.
Nor did I. So,
but I just want to reiterate. It's a real shame that Sean couldn't log on to talk to us.
So this is the debut of Camille. I think her being Mercedes heavy is a great call. I've been hoping it would be her or Megan Bain coming in that role. I think it's perfect for what Camille's strengths are to serve as Mercedes heavy. Kind of feels like the Renegade Twins might sneak their way into the picture just because there's been so much communication about that before. Mercedes leading a full-on stable, I think, would be fantastic. Great match. Good match. Very good match. Sheeta's work rate is fantastic, and Britt looks good early on here. But the big thing coming out of this, Mercedes denying the shot at Wembley and Camille debuting. Really great stuff. Love her hair color. Very cool look to her tonight. Joe, you made a bad joke, but have been remarkably more tolerable. What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought the match was solid. I thought it was a little bit clunky to start with, like they're just kind of finding their footing for some reason, which seemed odd because they're kind of long-standing dance partners in AEW. But it really did pick up in the second half, and it felt like a classic Cheetah Britt match. Went toward the go-home part of it. I like the look of Cheetah. I like that she kind of ditched the whole, mob boss pantsuit thing that she had going on. She had a little different look. I like the fact that she kind of teased maybe being a little bit heelish and going for the kendo stick. So she kind of played a little bit more maybe the questionable heel role in this match. And then I'm trying to look for. I think I had some spots here noted.
Some spots.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
I liked Sheeta's the way she applied the guillotine on Britt. I thought it looked really good when she wrenched back on her neck. It really just snug and just looked like it hurt my neck. So, and then with Camille, I'm glad that they have a heavy for Mercedes. They're gonna have to do some introduction of who Camille is because that audience had no reaction, I don't think, to her appearance.
It reminded me of when Jamie Hayter debuted and everyone was like, I don't know who that is, but she looks cool. Like that's kind of what we got here.
And that goes to
didn't hurt that she looks very different than when they last saw her. I don't say very different, but she's different hair color. She's a little tanner. Just
who Camille? Like you're saying, people
yeah.
that are familiar with her might not even like pick up.
Yeah,
I think it also just caught everybody off guard too.
So now my hope is that Hayter comes back and we can get that tag match eventually down the road.
So I was gonna throw that to you guys too, and Ryan, I'll pick this up with you. Britt is gonna need some help with this, and I think there's some interesting possibilities out there. I think if you wanted to pair her with Deanna, that could be really fun because you have the real life pairing of them, and Deanna needs something to do other than beat up Thunder Rosa at some point here. The dream scenario, I think, is of course if Jamie Hayter is able to come back. That would be such an incredible, incredible moment. I also thought it'd be cool to maybe debut Megan Bayne on that side of things so that you have Camille and Megan Bayne across from each other. Jamie Hayter, if she's healthy, though, has got to be the way to go, right? What did you think of everything in this match and what developed out of this angle?
So the only problem there is you forgot Rebel. She could always be the tag partner.
She's no longer under contract.
It doesn't matter. They bring people back all the time.
I think she was hanging out.
Marco just made an appointment.
Well, Mark was a fucking legend, Ryan. Jesus.
Listen, this was a fun match. I think the timing and even the roughness at the beginning were related to Britt having not wrestled for a year. So I think a little bit of that is just they probably didn't want to go super long match in her first time back in case there was any issues. Camille coming in, they just continue to spruce up the women's division. She fits really well in with Mercedes though, because you can get really over as the heater, and it gives her time to get familiarized with the audience so that when they turn her into being like a star, it's there. It won't feel forced. It'll be like, look what happened with Jamie Hayter. When they build you up just a little bit, and when you're ready, you're as over as anyone can be. We just, that's a good move. I really like. She's awesome. Her look is just incredible.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect slot for her to debut into. I think this is going to be a very, very fun piece to add to the puzzle. So excited to see what comes out of it, and excited to see what we get as far as Mercedes if she's building some sort of faction to start running people off. But I'm just so excited that gal is working heel again. She is very she's born to be a heel. Kaden said that my bangs look good and that the Phillies suck. So thank you, Kaden. I appreciate you very much.
Where?
Both of those things are extremely accurate.
Oh, I see it. Well,
yeah.
Kaden, no.
He forgot to add the lie. He's supposed to be two truths and a lie.
So you just put 2 lies.
Guys, I didn't even mention it on this stream, but I've been mentioning it all week because I got my lashes done and they gave me the influencer rate. Do you feel influenced by my lashes? I'm blinking in. I'm blinking influence at you.
Your aura is coming through.
You are now under the influence. To look like my dream of genie thing there. So my stylist just knows that I'm like not in a place where I could be spending a bunch of money on fucking fake lashes. And she was like, you have over 10,000 followers though, so I can give you the Instagram discount, which is hefty. And I was like, it's a bunch of wrestling fans. Like, I don't think it's your target demographic. And she was like, they don't know that. I said, okay. So there you go. Your girl, who is constantly big timing you because she's better than you.
You just ruined my night.
I'm so glad.
Why? Because
You've been ruining mine since the learning tree segment. So turnabout is fair play.
I hope this salon is in the seedy part of town. Back in it. Well, I went to Sports Clips and got a regular haircut.
You could probably get a free one of those because it's Sports Clips. Like, there's probably a coupon that you could have just got one. But let's move on to our second women's match, and then we'll circle back to Pac. Let's do all the women's stuff now because we did get 2 women's matches on the show, both of them advancing the title stories, which is fantastic. Mariah May versus the jobbiest jobber to ever job. This was super short, obviously, but man, she's a hard-hitting son of a bitch, that Mariah May. My God. She has no problem taking people out, but we get Toni Storm's music after, and the way Mariah May's face changed was fantastic. Like the evil, I am glowing in victory to the snap of Toni Storm's music was so great. She comes in, they lock horns, and she asks if Mariah May is prepared to die, which is so phenomenal. My God, Toni Storm just continuing to be a legend here. Love where we've been going with this. This is so much fun. Your thoughts on this squash, but are you guys prepared to die, most importantly?
I think you have to be in this kind of blood feud. As people know, I live in Nebraska. Our football coach has a famous quote from a locker room speech, I think a year or so ago, and he told the players about giving their all, and if we die, we die.
That's it. If he dies, he dies. So, Ryan, are you prepared to die?
When Mariah hits someone, she should yell timber.
It's not even
knocks
good.
him down.
I
don't care.
That's not even good.
Do you
for
think at any point in time I gave a shit whether these were good or not?
I mean, that's even for you beyond a
Yeah.
stretch. But
You drop a lot of logs, but yeah.
no, that's
You
funny
guys just
'cause
can't see the forest through the trees.
it's
But
a
anyway,
shit joke. That was better.
anyway, the highlight was Toni Storm's look when she took off the gear and her face.
Yes, of course.
But the match was fun. It was a job.
I don't know what it is about. Maybe it's just I'm trying to get used to Mariah May now as her own person and not the understudy. I don't know if I'm not bought into this whole glamour persona now, and like her presentation just seems very bland to me. Her acting and her in-ring, her facials are very good still, but just like her presentation feels a little bit lacking right now. It doesn't feel like a big star to me.
Do you think if she were to glam it up more with maybe some more extensive lashes and influence
I
you,
think
that would be
she's
helpful?
working on the influencer rate. I think she
that's
has
a good point.
10,000 followers.
She was really going out on a limb there.
Oh boy. So we get Pac in action against Boulder, which was squashity squash, but ends with a brain buster. That is a memorable one. what strength shown by Pac, who is not Pac, but is Pac, according to the way that Justin Roberts says it. So but continuing to rack up some wins. I am wondering if we're going to get this 4-pack or what's going to happen at Wembley, but he looks great. I'm so happy he's able to work consistently. I'm going to throw it over to Ryan to get whatever he's going to say over with. Ryan,
before Ryan jumps in, would be a 4-pack or 4-pack?
See, now that is fucking comedy gold right there. It'd be a 4-pack.
Go for it, Ryan.
It'd be a 4-bastard. That's what it would be. Ryan, what did you think?
You guys are making me furious. I just want to know whose opponent's going to be. Is he going to be in a 4-pack or is he going to have his own match? That's all I care about. And also, I wish they were doing more with the Iron Savages than having them lose like this.
Yeah, we are in disjointed world with who's on AEW and who's at ROH. That's obviously going to be forced because of the stationary tapings, but there's been a lot of
Needling,
that,
you know.
And we've seen we saw what happened to Dalton Castle. He lost like basically a meaningless match and got injured in it. So that fucking sucks. Like when we are wasting reps of people. But Joe, were you as impressed by the brain bust as I was?
Yeah, that's the only thing I really had to note in the squash match that felt like a Rampage match was it did what it had to do. Like it kept Pac, heated up. It made him look strong, dominating win over a big guy and showed off his power. So it accomplished what it needed. It just, I don't know if it needs to be here.
Well, I've been told that it's about drive and it's about power. My guess was maybe this was supposed to have a longer time on it, but MJF promos go long. Jericho went way too the fuck long.
Those statements, you know what, Kate? Those statements, they feel evergreen.
Joe, that was our episode of Blood and Guts Dynamite. You have been a delight to work with tonight, which is pretty much all I can say about that. So, we've got Royal Rampage coming up this weekend. We are inching closer and closer to Wembley. There's Wrestle Dream after that. There's Grand Slam after that. We are in a very, very busy season, but enough about AEW. Where do I go if I want to keep up with Joe?
Well, before that, Royal Rampage with their Battle Royal to determine a number one contender.
Because or 2 months from now, yeah.
That's how we do it now. We win a tournament or a Battle Royal. But no, you can find me on social media at _Asian Joe. And then in my bio, I still have my link to my serial review blog, which I need to do a new one eventually. I think there should be a serial with the Kelsey brothers coming out that I want to do.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
So hopefully that one comes in the next couple months.
Nice. Wait, they're doing a Royal Rampage and it's a recorded episode. It's not even a live rampage.
Yep, I already know who won.
God.
It was Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, that's dog shit. Who won?
Jeff Jarrett.
No, it wasn't.
No, I'm not going to spoil it for people, but it's out there if you want to see it.
Will you put it in the private chat?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you after the show.
Okay, well then, since we are inching ever so close to the end of the show, why don't you tell people where they can find you, where they can find out more about the Mark Order podcast?
If you're stumped about where you can find me, at Mark Order Pod on all socials, and just we'll have some fun there. And then my history blog here for history.com. I'm actually going to be updating that a lot more regularly in the coming months, so that should be good. Thank you all for listening to my amazing jokes.
That is certainly a thing that Ryan said. You can catch me at Miss Kate Fabe on social media. I'm trying to do better about being a white girl on Instagram. It gets me these free things, these deep discounts on things like lashes. So, please follow me at Miss Kate Fabe. You can catch me at Fightful most days of the week. Monday on Fightful Select with your Sour Graps Raw review. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday with your NXT, ROH, and SmackDown post shows. But this week, I'll be with SP3 doing the Death Before Dishonor post show. Looking very forward to that pay-per-view so much. And then Wednesdays here at the Mark Order podcast, Excite Wrestling once or twice a month. We have a good time over there. So give us a follow there. But for tonight, we say goodbye and good night.
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast. We now return